So I think the one mantra that I live by is that I don't fear tough times, or I rather no more fear tough times. In fact, I believe that when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Okay.
And now, the three elements that go behind that mantra are three things. One of that is gratitude that I spoke of. The other two are something called sabr, which is patience. I've always believed that trust the process and give time some time.
Hello and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, where we share hot tips on how to do life and business without losing your mind. I'm your host, Savita Nanjappa, entrepreneur, high achieving 9 to 5er turned transformational success coach, helping you create a wildly successful business. Come hang out with me and other fabulous humans like you every week for stories and chats packed with a healthy dose of tips, resources, how to's, and real talk. Side effects may include a happier and more confident you with each passing day. Welcome to the Success with Savita show, and joining me today is my lovely guest Dipika Trehan. Dipika is the founder of the H.O.W Forum and Corporate Diva. Her organization works across verticals of holistic employee well-being and a women leadership development platform, Corporate Diva, that aims at transforming women professionals into leaders. The platform addresses the upskilling and support needs of the entire life cycle of women professionals, from getting women in university corporate ready to realization and activation of emerging women leaders to segueing women into senior leadership to returning career women and women entrepreneurs. Corporate Diva has enrichment for all. She has been awarded multiple times, including the Top 100 Global Diversity and Inclusion Leaders by ET Now, awardee of representing India on a 4-week scholarship to Israel for innovation in a women's health program, applauded in person by Miss Cherry Blair for her work in women leadership development, and honored as iconic women by Women Economic Forum. She is also listed as a top impactful woman CEO, building women leaders in times of the COVID pandemic, and has recently been awarded as Karnataka's top woman leader. Join us in our conversation as we discuss her life story and her journey so far. Hi, and welcome to the Women Making an Impact series. And with me today is Dipika Trehan. And I hope I've got that right, Deepika. Welcome to the show. And thank you so much for making the time to be here with me today and for sharing your time so generously with me. So, welcome. And I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
No, completely my pleasure, Savita. In fact, I've heard that your podcasts are rated in one of the top 10 podcasts. So I'm excitedly looking forward to it.
Yes, so we just launched the podcast. So I'm looking at having powerhouses like women powerhouses like you on the podcast. So we just launched, and we've just crossed 5K listens, which is good in 3 weeks. So we're hoping to hit 100K this year, and I'm so excited that you are in this journey, or in the podcast journey with me. And on that note, we'll dive right in. Before we get started, to all the audience who are listening and watching, I want to make a quick introduction. Normally, all my guests are so much better at introducing their own work, but here's this one thing that I want to say. Deepika is the founder of the How Forum and the Corporate Diva, which is a platform that builds women leaders. And on that note, Deepika, I'm going to dive into the first question that I have for you: your journey so far, and what made you start Corporate Diva.
Hey, thanks, Savita. Well, the journey so far has been like a roller coaster. It's been of things that one never planned for,
Mm-hmm.
never foresaw, but it's been interesting. And, like they say that life has looked better when you see it from a rear view mirror as to where you've achieved, where you've reached, what you've done.
Yeah.
And that's where it's been hugely gratifying. More to say that, one when one looks back, I think every challenge, every failure, every achievement, everything, every learning has literally been like, Providence putting the pieces of jigsaw into place. And of course, there's scope for more pieces to come by.
Yeah.
But to go back, starting about now plus 2 decades ago, I was a very ambitious young girl at work. Um, at a tender age of about 19, when I started working, um, I pretty much had my plans clear. I pretty much had a vision of where I wanted to be. And even at that age and time, I pretty much had clarity in the roadmap that I want to follow and that I want to take forward
Wow.
towards my professional development. So I come from an armed forces background. My dad was in the army, and alongside he's a paratrooper, he's a mountaineer, he's done an expedition to Antarctica. So I think adventure also runs in my DNA. Least to say that life heard that and it became even more adventurous. But yes, as I said, I started off as a professional who was very, very aspirational, who, according to her, had clarity. But like they say, that life happens when you're busy planning it.
Mm.
Similar for me, while I was doing, progressing well in the HR domain, which was my expertise,
Mm-hmm.
I had to move abroad uh, because of marriage and because my husband was on an assignment abroad and all of that. And it was just like, okay, I'll just take like a 6 month sabbatical and come back and rejoin work. And, so that's all right. One odd glitch here and there is fine. But when I moved outside the country, those 6 months turned out to be close to a decade. And close to a decade, I was out of the country trying to figure out what next in life
Mm.
because challenges came one after the other. And I was like in countries that were poles apart. I first moved to South Africa for 3 years and then to Moscow for 5.5 years. So literally South Pole to North Pole.
Yeah.
And as soon as I would overcome a challenge of maybe adapting myself culturally and things like that, and the work visas would get sorted, I would either be with a baby bump or ready to move countries, literally. But what happened in those years was I was very active at the Indian embassy. So I realized that I can't be, just not doing nothing. So I went up to the Indian embassies and I would tell them that here are my expertise. Anything, any work for me, do add me onto your mailing list for Indian cultural get-togethers and all of that. And through that, I made friends with people of different countries, cultures as well, because not only was I active in my embassy, I would go to other embassies and visit and learn a lot from there. And then there came a time where I was gaining stability in a foreign land, and then we had to move again. So move to another foreign land. Now this time was even more challenging because it was minus 30, minus 40 degrees temperatures that I was exposed to. It was a non-English speaking country at that time. I had to learn the language. I was bringing up two little children. My daughter and my son were just tiny toddlers at that time. And yet again, I was in touch with the embassy. I was in touch with the Moscow University. So, what I'm trying to say here is even though when times were challenging for me on active work, I never discount those years out of my professional journey. Because, and that's one thing that I firmly believe on is that, often when women are on a sabbatical, they negate those years out of their professional lives. Whereas the amount of life skill learning, the amount of cross cultural sensitization, the amount of crossing cultural barriers, and today what we call as diversity, inclusion, and all of that that I learned at a time where supposedly I was off work was colossal.
Yeah.
And then we came back to India, which is where, I again started settling in a little bit. We were in Mumbai for 5 years, and that's where I started, I've been a Tata Skip candidate as well. And I worked with Mrs. Geeta Gopala Krishnan at Tata's as well.
Mhm.
So settling in down there, and that's when the move to Bangalore happened.
Okay.
So each time, you thought that you were
Somewhere.
settling in, each time there was some kind of a turbulence that picked you out from there and replanted you somewhere. And as soon as you saw growth there, you were again replanted. So by the time we moved to Bangalore, is when I realized that however it has been, I've actually completed an entire life cycle of a woman professional. right from being an ambitious young woman to being someone on a sabbatical to someone striving back to come back and return back to career
Yeah.
to being a social entrepreneur, finding my true north and leading a life with purpose. I have completed that entire life cycle, which is why Corporate Diva happened.
Okay.
Corporate Diva didn't just happen like that. I first, through the years, went through a health and well-being journey.
Mhm.
And that's what led me to build a platform called the Health of Women Forum, which was focusing on employee well-being. And a lot of that now is taken care of by a third-party organization. Of course, the protocol standards are met and all of that. But when I was doing all of that work, I came across numerous women at work in their corporate offices. And I realized that there is a gap. There is a gap. We see so many less of women leaders in places where it matters, in positions where decisions are made. Where are we? And that's what led me to form a platform, an ecosystem of building women leaders called Corporate Diva.
Wow. Okay. I have to say, you had such a fascinating journey, right? Often, when you see someone and they are doing a program, you only just see what is seen now, but the story behind is what makes it what it is now, right? And your journey is so fascinating. I cannot imagine what life was like in Moscow. So hats off to you on that. But I think like launching Corporate Diva must have obviously not been easy, right? So I know you shared before all the challenges. I think that you articulated so well. Going when you started this platform, what kind of challenges have you seen? And also, the challenges could be personally for you or what you saw in the workplace, especially with all this DNI and all of that going on.
Very interesting question and something very close to my heart because Corporate Diva from the word go has been challenging.
Okay.
Right from its name, Diva.
Okay.
We all have that boxed understanding, perception of the word diva. It
Yeah.
means glamour and it means, that celebrity like feeling and all of that. But I think through my journey, I realized that diva can have a bigger impact. Every woman at work is a diva in her own right.
Hmm.
A diva for showing up at work every single day besides all the challenges that she comes across.
Yeah.
A diva for multitasking, for nurturing, for caregiving, and yet reporting to work. A diva for what she brings to the table. A diva for her credibilities, her potentials, and performing at par with men.
Right.
So those were my reasons behind diva.
Hmm.
So my initial challenge with Corporate Diva was the fact that I would actually walk into organizations where I would like to meet the HR heads or diversity heads and talk about this whole thing of, building more women leaders, enabling them to own their credibility, which is already within them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even allowed to meet the HR because everybody thought that Diva is another ramp walk program,
Oh.
and they said that, no, madam, we are not interested in fashion show for our working women. So it was from the word go a challenge to
Okay.
prove what Diva was.
Hmm.
And there were a couple of mentors in the journey who came by and said that maybe you want to think to rename it, change it to something more corporatish and things like that. But Savita, I was just so determined to, I said, when we are here challenging the status quo,
Hmm.
right? Why must I be giving into it from the conception itself?
Okay. Yeah.
So I was very clear that I had my belief in the word diva. I had my own side of the coin to look at the word diva. And slowly, today, 8 years down the line, it's been a tough journey. But today, Corporate Diva is supported by people like Sherry Blair, Mr. Mohandas Pai, Gul Panag, Mr. Abhinav Bindra. So it's taken me time. It's taken a lot of grit. It's taken a lot of challenging the status quo each time I went to organizations, each time I interacted with women. And it's taken me huge amount of persuasion to tell women that look beyond what you look yourself in the mirror as.
Yeah.
There is a lot within, and that's where the potential lies. That's where that fire is. But it's been a gratifying journey and lovely to see the results, lovely to see the platform go global and impact so many people. So, challenges at every step. The most recent one being that I, as a person, always believe that impact happens in an offline scenario only. And when the pandemic happened, the team said, "What do we do now?" I said, "We have two options. Either we stay on with the offline impact part of it and wait for the pandemic to get over whenever that happens,
Right.
or let's take a plunge, let's pivot online. Nothing to lose. Worst case, if it doesn't work, we'll sit back and then wait for the pandemic, but don't leave any scope for regret." So we
Right.
pivoted, and you won't believe, Savita, January 2020, Corporate Diva was three cities, that is Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, and we were about to launch Hyderabad. And February 2021, we have our presence in 12 countries.
Wow.
So that's a pivot story. And
Yeah.
that was all not wanting to give into a challenge without testing waters hands on.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. Stay tuned as we take a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side of the show. Yeah. I think your passion and your grit just comes through as you're speaking. I can actually sense it. So I'm going to, like, that's an interesting point that you make around impact. My next question was going to be, what has been the impact of Corporate Diva? But let me ask you this. Let's say I'm someone who's going through this program. How is it changing for me? Like, can you just walk me through what the program is, and what is the impact on me as a participant in this program? How do I exit out of the program?
Sure. So it all comes from a space of my own experience, right? And living every moment of that professional life cycle. So today, Corporate Diva caters to the entire life cycle of a woman professional, where we have cohorts for women in university, getting them corporate ready, to emerging women leaders in terms of their activation and realization of the concept of leadership, to senior women leaders segueing into the boardroom. And, we all say that those are the women that have somewhere broken the glass cliff.
Yeah.
Or the glass ceiling, but there's a glass cliff beyond. That's where their actual credibility is questioned at every point in time, because you have men saying that women get emotional, they aren't decision makers. So that segue into the boardroom, as well as cohorts for women that are returning to career and women entrepreneurs. So we kind of address to the entire life cycle through cohorts that range from 2 days to 30 days, right? And depending on what section of women it is for, we have coaching, mentoring. And the best thing about the cohorts is that none of the cohorts, Savita, even in an online world, none of them are pre-recorded or recorded sessions. They are all live. They're all tailored. In fact, even our flagship program, Corporate Diva, the 2-day program, that also we do it once a quarter only, because the rest of the quarter, then we wait and see what the market scenario is, what is the need of the hour, and which is where, when the pandemic struck, we customize that cohort to dealing with an online world. And when exhaustion, fatigue of the online world set in, we customize the cohort, the next cohort, on leading with fun, because we were now getting exhausted of online and all of that. So all these cohorts happen with a lot of thought that goes behind them. They are not pre-conditioned, or they're not kind of automated, or things like that. They are addressing the need of the hour, every quarter, that whenever the cohort goes out. Now, how women enroll in is that it's quite an easy task, reaching out to organizations, having them sponsor 3, 4, 5, whatever of them. But one is, every cohort is not more than about maximum 18 women in a cohort. Two is that our priority is not, corporate sponsorship, because then it becomes just another leadership program, which is a tick mark for anybody. And the third thing is, they go through a very rigorous selection process to be on board, because that's where we evaluate their mental readiness, You could have had somebody with a decade full of experience, but not ready in her mind to even think on leadership. And you could have
Yeah.
had somebody just 5, 7 years into the industry, but knows exactly where she wants to head to, probably has a vision in mind. Um, that's the person that we would take in because she's mentally ready for it.
Yeah.
So the selection process happens. And fourth is that, like our own health, I believe that growth, progress is also something that I need to own.
Yeah.
Yes, my organization could support me. Yes, my organization could sponsor me at a later date or whatever, but I can't sit hand in hand, saying that no, I will wait for my organization to identify caliber in me and then I will go through a leadership journey.
Yeah.
I think my growth, I own it and I've got to invest in my own growth.
Yeah, yeah. So, I love that your program is like, you have to choose. It's not something that the organization's doing, because this is something that I've seen. Although I don't do corporate workshops, but we've all been in corporate. I spent 17 years in corporate. Going to that training program was the biggest pain, right? And we would fight our bosses, and then you'd sit there trying not to think about work, and then talk about how, okay, I have to go back and now work extra because there's so much work set up. So I love that this is by choice. You are taking charge of what you want to see happen in your career. And I think that's the beauty of this program. And I really love it. Okay. On that note, my next question to you is, so we know, openly, every broadly, all of us are speaking about the gaps that's there in the workplace that women are dealing with, right? But what are gaps that you have observed and you're also addressing, obviously, through the program? But what are the gaps that women in the workplace are dealing with, and they must get past if they want to step into those leadership roles? And I think maybe even if they've got past the senior management role, and like you said, you break the glass ceiling, after that is like a cliff. What is that they are dealing with to really get to that leadership role?
Couple of things. I think the first thing is I'm going to give a corollary of leadership to health and well-being. When I was at a stage where I was 94 kgs after my second child, right? And what I realized in the long run was that I wasn't grappling the weight that I saw outside, right? Physically, was the weight I was carrying mentally. And that was translating externally. Similar is a leadership journey for any woman professional. A lot of the gaps that we notice, right, that are apparent, let's say gender gaps, or let's say lesser women in leadership, or lesser opportunities, or and things like that, are a lot of the gaps that women are internalizing.
Okay.
We are not having our ask clear.
Mm.
We are going through the imposter syndrome day in and day out, questioning our own credibility. We are not challenging the status quo and saying that, I'm equally worthy, or let me give it a try and let me see what I come out with. So we're not challenging our own selves. And that's what the gap then translates outwardly. So we are okay being called emotional. We are okay being into industry sector specific areas like HR and all of that, and not okay challenging the status quo and taking up certain things. But I think the apparent gaps are bridging.
Yeah.
Trust you me, organizations are doing their bit to give that nudge to women.
Yeah.
And besides that, that's where Corporate Diva steps in, is that the nudge outwardly from the organization is there. Yet there is not much translation, is because the nudge has to happen within. I need to come out and uh, be vulnerable. I need to come out and share what I'm going through. I need to come out and talk about my capability.
Yeah.
So these are given fancier terms, like just coming out and talking about my capability is personal branding in
Yeah.
today's time. Expressing myself and communicating is executive presence in today's time. Similarly, things. So I think there is a lot internally that one has to, the moment they cross the barrier of self awareness, understanding their own capabilities, unapologetically owning what their passions are,
Yeah.
and then having their ask clear.
Yeah.
Right? These can have huge potential of bridging a lot more internal and external gaps. vis-a-vis just maybe your diversity token of placing a couple of women on the board just because there is gender parity required.
Yeah.
But if you really want to make a difference, like I have a lot of organizations coming to me and saying that, we're doing this Women's Day, 6 month, 6 week kind of a intervention. So we'd like to invite you as a speaker. I love doing that. So I will show up for that. But my first question to them is that what is the tangibility of this? How are you assessing the impact when you're having speaker sessions?
Yeah.
And how much of an impact would one speaker session do? What purpose does it serve? And
Yeah.
that's where there are a lot of question marks there. We don't have a tangibility metric which shows us that, all right, if this has been done, here are the results. So I encourage organizations to not look at it as a short-term thing, not look at it at a checklist or a token kind of a need or requirement. I encourage organizations also to take it up as tangible benefits, because look at the numbers. I mean, if everything needs to be backed with numbers and economic benefit, women can add trillions of dollars to the economy when they show up in leadership roles.
Yeah.
So nobody's doing anybody a favor here. We're talking plain and simple numbers.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. I resonate with all the points that you're saying. And yes, it's so true about the imposter syndrome. And yes, people need to start showing up for themselves. All of this can be given, and there's so much information that you can find also outside, but you have got to unapologetically own it, like you said. On that, the moving on from that question, I want to know, what does a day in your life look like? So let's bring this to you, and what's the behind the scenes? Tell me about Deepika.
A day in my life is a very ordinary day. Yes, I wake up with gratitude every single day. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, I don't kind of sectionize when I need to pay gratitude. I think I start my day with gratitude. The very fact that one has woken up healthy and alive, I think it's 90% of the blessing that one can ask for. So I wake up with that. But beyond that, the first half of the day, or I think the first couple of hours of the day, I'm a hands-on nurturer, I'm a hands-on mom, I'm a hands-on wife, I'm a hands-on homemaker. So the meals need to be cooked by me. Kids, I have my daughter giving the board class. So just a checklist of where she is, what she has done, is she prepared well, checking with my son, packing tiffins for my husband, and things like that. All of that happens in the very early start of the day. And then is me and my work time. So, pretty much the household knows that 10:30 and you can't touch this woman because she's at work. And I'm at work from then to the later part of the evening. And for everything that is needed by the household, it's absolutely accessible in the kitchen.
Okay.
So right from the morning breakfast to lunch to evening snack is prepared in the kitchen early in the morning and kept. So you guys are now old enough, pick up your plate, dish yourself in, reheat it in the microwave, have it. You can't have mom serving it to you all the time. Also, given the time that we're now in a work from home kind of a thing where everybody is at home.
Yeah.
Besides that, I am a trained classical singer, so I love singing. And I've inherited the genes of my dad, so I like going out I'm a qualified mountaineer as well. So trekking, hiking, but long drives are, I think my all-time love is a long drive with loud music and my kind of music.
Okay. And what is your kind of music, if I may ask?
That's dependable. So if it's a day which is very melancholy, I would hear all the sad ones, and that's when you actually get to understand the lyrics of song. But when it's a day when you literally feel like the world is at your footsteps, you'll be just bubbling around, jumping around. So I don't have a particular playlist for anything. It just depends on how I'm feeling, and but yes, music is my go-to.
Okay, lovely to know you're a classical singer. We must hear you sing sometime soon. A mantra that you live by. I think you've
One
shared
mantra
that, but
that I
if you want to
live by
briefly touch
is
upon that, it's
that
about gratitude. I think that's like a
I
big
don't
mantra
fear
for
tough
you.
times, or I rather
Anything
no
else you
more
want to
fear
add
tough
over there?
times. In fact, I believe that when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Okay.
And now, the three elements that go behind that mantra are three things. One of that is gratitude that I spoke of. The other two are something called sabr, which is patience. I've always believed that trust the process and give time some time. Uh, because things are meant to happen the way they are in their own time, right? You don't have control over it. What you have control over it is what you give in, what you put into it. So no compromises on hard work, no compromises on doing my homework right, but then surrendering and giving it to time for it to progress. And time is proven for a fact that believe in it, believe in the purpose, the process. Second, of course, is gratitude, that be thankful for anything and everything, even in adversity. Trust you me, Savita, that the H.O.W Forum and Corporate Diva have been built on foundational pillars of the deepest, biggest failures that I have experienced in my lifetime, where there was lack of support, lack of professional ecosystem of sisterhood, and all of that, which led me to think that there's a need for this. And of course, well-being, which was hugely compromised in my earlier journey as an early mother. And the third being, sabtera, when there is time when you're overwhelmed, you think you've done your best, you think you couldn't have put in more, and yet things don't translate. You've got to just look up and say that I surrender. It's Saptira. And because I believe that we may be looking at it from a ground floor level and we can just see so much, but there's a bigger power that is looking at it from a bird's eye view, is looking at it from a larger picture, will make things happen for which you worked hard, but at the right time with the right kind of impact. And that's where one totally surrenders. So sabra, which is patience, shukra, which is gratitude, and saptara is total surrender. These are my three elements that build that mantra of when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's what brings me to my sanity.
So beautifully said. And yes, so much about, I'm a very spiritual person, so I can really connect to your share. I mean, you sharing that it's all, Zaptera. I love that. And of course, I mean, everybody has their own mantras, but this is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. A piece of advice before I let you go, I promise this is the last one. A piece of advice that you have for female leaders, or even if you would like to share for female entrepreneurs, women who are listening to you speak right now.
The only one thing that I would love to, and that's how my work also started off, was to make a woman fall in love again, this time with herself. Believe more in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, you're convinced about it, then don't let go of it. And each time you are pushed to a corner where you want to give up, please remember the Diva story, right? I had a million people behind me wanting me to give up on the name Diva, but I believed in it. And today the world believes in it. So believe that tad little bit more in your own self. If you've got it coming out from your gut, just hang in there, hang on to it, keep doing the homework that you have to do. I always say that the foundations are uncompromisable in terms of your own homework, your own research, your own studies. Even now, as I said, whenever a cohort is brought forth, there is research that goes behind it. There is statistics that I review and analyze, and all of that. So that is a given, that has to be a given as a foundation. But beyond that, believe in yourself. There is nothing more powerful than that voice from inside which tells you, go on, keep going.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing such. I mean, it's been a very interesting, not just an interesting conversation, but I think I've myself taken away so many. There's so many takeaways from your conversation, and I'm sure everyone will find it a really good listen. But before that, if people want to get in touch with you, people want to join Corporate Diva, how can they find you? What's your social link? Do they find you on LinkedIn, or are you elsewhere? You also have a website.
Yeah. So if they want to find me, I think you could share it also when you post this, but they can know more about the platform at www.corporate-diva.com.
Yeah.
It's not an underscore, it's a hyphen. So corporate-diva.com. And I am DIPIKATREHAN on LinkedIn. Just get hold of me on LinkedIn. I have my work pretty much like an open book on LinkedIn. So just send me a message, send me a text on LinkedIn, and you will definitely see me circle back. Maybe a little late or whatever, basis on how I'm, kind of tied up with work, but you will definitely hear from me. I reply to every message.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Deepika, and thank you for being here with us today. I so appreciate you giving me this time this evening. And
Completely my pleasure. It was lovely chatting up. Thanks for bringing up, it just took me down the memory lane on a couple of questions. So
okay.
thanks.
Oh,
Thanks.
nice, lovely, and all the best. I think the work you do has such great impact on our world. So all the best in your journey. I look forward to staying connected with you, and I look forward to watching you on this amazing journey. And as you as you're changing lives, I'm very happy to share in your success and watch your success, of course. So all the very best.
Thank you so much, Savita. Definitely would stay connected because I always believe that alone one can do just so little. Together we can do a lot. And I totally believe in, that with the hashtag together we lead. It is only together that we lead. I think in isolation, I don't see much progress.
Yeah.
So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode and you want more, you can go to the show notes on my website, which is successwithsavita.com/podcast. If you like what you've heard so far, I would be grateful to you if you could leave me a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and share with a friend who may find this useful. You can also follow me on my Instagram at Success with Savita and DM me any questions you may have, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Until the next episode, believe in yourself and all the best to your success.